All right, this is a visual aid for Gaston lock-off bumps. Now for this drill, as opposed to going up the wall as high as you can, it actually tends to work better if you just do one quality lock-off bump per set, and then maybe add just like a simple little, secondary finisher move to a jug. So let me give you an example of that. All right, so let's say that you start matched right there and there, kind of in the center of that jug. Now, instead of starting in a Gaston position already, which is useful for trying things in isolation, but most of the time that we're doing this outside, there is going to be a setup move, and your core has to get used to that crescendo of tension that is needed by doing some tension for the setup move, but then really turn it on once you engage the opposing foot. And let's say, by example, that your starting foot, is actually going to be, oh, that is way too big of an area. Let's put the starting foot, you could pick one of those two. Okay, so first simulated move would be here, move to that orange Gaston, step the right foot up so you can get good opposition. For this one, you could actually just switch feet. So you would switch feet on one of those two start holds. Your left foot would just be smearing or even off the wall. And then you would see if you could, and again, the idea here is that we're forcing you to do a bit of a bump. So, the idea here is that you could go, by example, let's say to that as an intermediate, and then you try to bump to that orange one there. Okay? Now, in as far as using that example, when I say a finishing move, maybe you switch feet once you latch that one, and you just do, a little hop like up to this jug up here. Just that you get used to like a reward. You should feel like a movement reward, like you did hard tension, you did a hard bump, contact strength, switch feet, and then you always want to include like a little reward jug move after that. Then you would hop down. Now within the same time frame, this kind of drill, as opposed to say the one like compression drill, you'd be doing a lot fewer moves per rep or set on the wall. So you would have to kind of do a lot of rounds of it. But that's why we give time frames rather than reps per se. Okay, now in terms of progressing it, let's take that one away. In terms of progressing it, there are a couple ways. Okay, let's keep this. So as far as how to use the handholds to progress, no, you know what, I do want to clear that. There are a couple things here. First of all, when it comes to Gastons, sometimes we don't call it that, but sometimes a wide down pulling crimp, but we have to lock it off wide in like a really wide, like W kind of shape, arms to shoulders. Sometimes that actually uses a lot of the same muscles and is a really intense challenge for the shoulders. So let's set up an example of that. That would be like, starting here, then you go up to this one. Okay, no big deal so far. Maybe you even give yourself a really big foot, and you put the foot there. But then, then the whole point is that you now have to lock off this hold and move your body way over. So let's say you're locking off that hold, and first you go to something where your left arm can lock off quite comfortably. So you go, say, to, let's say, this one, but then you have to bump it, and you have to bump it quite big and wide, and that's where you would challenge yourself to something like here or here, anything in that zone. Now, I would consider this a progression because the hold is not actually angled favorably. So it's a bit of a different intensity through the fingers, wrist, and shoulder, but that's one way. The other way, of course, is to increase the distance of the handholds. So let's use that primary example. Sorry, wrong shape, but that's where you were on, this one, and then let's say that, the real test off of a foot, somewhere down here is going to be ultimately if you can, let's say, bump from here to here even. Okay, so the way that we'd progress that would be to take the target holds, whereas in that original move we were saying go to that one, bump to that one. Now we're saying can you bump yet further, and that's another way to progress with the hand holds. The way to progress, I don't even know if I want to call it a progression, but to use the footholds to change the difficulty or to change the angles. And that again is why you want not to necessarily always dogmatically follow the exact same ones. Sort of the advantage to having a fairly well sprayed, or rather it's a symmetrical board that you've got, but there are a lot of holds, and so you want to take advantage of that. This one I can actually just demonstrate with simple lines. The idea is that sometimes we need to get good at horizontal body positions, Gastoning, locking off, and then bumping. Sometimes more like this. Now, for all intents and purposes, think for the most part at like the top of boulders, especially towards the top out, where you have an opposing foot in a Gaston, and you need to just get horizontal, load that left shoulder, and just keep a lot of tension, and so you can bump to the finish jug, so you can easily pull yourself up. That's what something like that is good for. Vertical ones, the challenge would be to see how close you can progress that foot towards the handholds, because that puts you more off balance, and more off balance is what we usually call techie in terms of Gaston move. Okay, so those are the different ways to change it. And again, you can always, if you choose to, from one workout to the next one, to pre-script a couple ones that you can follow to get a feel. But being a little bit creative and understand the concept is actually goes a long way in terms of being able to apply this stuff outside.